This is pretty good. I haven't got a cameraman today, so bear with. I've got the selfie camera on. I wanted to sit outside, but it's just a bit windy. I'm not going to do that. Oh, the door's closed. Levi, do you want to be in it? Come! Come! Come here. We've got a dog. We've got a dog. Come on. Hello. I'm here with Bluebell. We'll see if she stays. Hi. She might not. But this is Bluebell. She's like the best thing in the world. To me, at least. But anyway, okay, I'm going to talk today about something that happened to me yesterday, which was that I went to give a talk, but I had like a booth at my secondary school, my boarding school, so it was where I was for sixth form, I ended up calling it was the idea of the headmaster who was there at the time. It was his idea to call it the meandering path. And that's exactly what it is that I am doing. And it was so meandering that I didn't even know what I was going to talk to people about. And I was thinking about it on the way there. I was like, what do I actually say? We just got stopped because my dad called. But back, hi, meandering path. So I didn't even know what I was going to say. Like because it's such a strange, I was just totally honest. But it's such a strange situation that I'm in because on the one hand, you know, I'm very excited by this path of meandering, and if someone says, what are you doing, my response kind of at the moment is I can only tell you what I did yesterday. It's the same with like writing, and you know, I now I'm sure that I am writing books, but the question when someone says what are they about, I'm kind of like, I'll tell you when they're done, because for me the title comes last, you know, like the title is almost like the end is part of the story, but it really is only clear to me when I get there. So yeah, I was on the train and I was thinking, what am I going to say? And I thought, well, I'll just see what they ask and what they want to know. But for any Wellingtonians watching this who came and spoke to me yesterday, because I'm going to go through the different stories and the different things that happened. The first thing to say is just that, you know, this is something that has happened to me as opposed to something that I have made. Like, up until this point in my life, I really don't think, yeah, of course you know, free will and determinism, to me, they're kind of two sides of the same coin. And I can look at it and say, yeah, I've decided like not to do uni properly and I've decided to da-da-da, but that's not true. Like, I couldn't cope with it the way that everyone else is, because like, I'm highly sensitive. Like, I really just always think of the story of the Princess and the Pea, like, not saying I'm a princess, but just saying that like, I am very sensitive. Bless you. I'm very, very sensitive, and I always have been. And I don't think that means that what I feel isn't real. I think it means that I'm just more attuned to it than other people. And yeah, I can go from crying to laughing in a second. So it really, like, it is, yeah, but like, it's bipolar. If you want, if that is, we'll see. Like, we'll see what happens with bipolar down the line. But that's definitely my diagnosis. So far as the modern world is concerned, that's what I have, and that's who I am. That's actually an important thing I'm just going to say as well, is that for people to call something a mental illness or even a disability, what it does is it differentiates the person from their illness or from their lack of ability, and it infers or it implies that that's a bad thing. And I actually disagree. I mean, if someone's disabled, say they're blind, what happens as a result? Sure, they can't see the world through their eyes, but their hearing, the rest of their senses become more refined. And why do we call things disabilities as opposed to just looking at it as like different ability? And bipolar, I actually sometimes call it bipowerful, because when I am high, the things that I have seen without any external drugs are so, well, incredible that I believe that elements of it are a superpower. Equally and oppositely, elements of it are detrimental and can cause harm to me and the people around me. So I'm not oblivious to that, but I just think that our terminology, maybe it creates a notion that I don't think is a fair assessment of things. So yes, so the point I'm making is that, you know, this is something that has happened to me as opposed to something that I have willed. I don't think that I can will things, you know, like the universe has got its own thing going on. But here we are, and I'm just trying to make the best of it. And more than that, I'm trying to see that it's actually maybe, well, a massive blessing in disguise for a lot of reasons. And I'm not ashamed. Like I was telling the girls yesterday, when I went to Wellington, at my school before that, the girls literally were so like dominating and loud, and like I'd go and dress like a homeless person, I'd say whatever I wanted. I wasn't scared of anyone, like teacher or student alike. I did my own thing. Like I didn't even really go into school that much, to be honest. And that was because I was like suffering like deeply. I had a lot of depression, and when girls would say to me like, oh, like you didn't come in again, I'd be like, you just have no idea like what's going on. And I felt entitled, I think, in the best possible way, because like I still got the work done, whatever that means, but I didn't take shit. Whereas when I got to Wellington and I started off being like loud and just sort of myself, like I quickly realized that no one else was doing that, and like I felt so just ostracized that, and I just like tried to adapt and adjust, but it just wasn't like, it wasn't me. Like I just remember remarking it, thinking how amazing it was that the girls would be able to like get up and like do their makeup in the morning and like put in earrings, because when the alarm went off, like I was talking to some girls about this, so if you're watching you know what I'm talking about. Like when that alarm went off at 8 a.m, getting out of bed and putting my uniform on was like a mission and a half. And I remember even saying to someone once, like, the fact that I got out of bed today and came to Lessons is a success story. And they like laughed at me because they thought I was joking, but I wasn't. Like it really was hard, and the homesickness was like unbelievable. And I know that I had a subjectively very sensitive experience, but again, like I don't think I'm the only one that feels this. And I spoke to a group of girls yesterday who are absolutely lovely, and they agreed. I mean, like, of course, I'm not saying anything new. Like, there's a reason people don't go back to school after they leave, and I don't think this is anything to do with like a specific institution. I think it's just tradition and how these things get passed on. Like when I first went there, boys and girls sat separately in the dining hall, and like if I had dinner with my brother or suggested it, like that seemed like the craziest suggestion in the whole world, never mind like someone I was seeing, you know. So the whole thing, it was just a very like strange experience that I felt simultaneously like I had a million eyes on me and like no one knew who I was, like and the reason I'm saying this out loud and like it's coming up as a result of the careers fair is that I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. And I think that once things get spoken about and once you shine a light on it, it changes. Like that's just the beauty. It's string theory, you know, it's just the beauty and nature of things. So I'm just thinking what the key things were that I spoke to people about yesterday to bring back up, for anyone else who's interested. So yes, so I was speaking to a group of girls and I said, right, do you have any questions for me? And they wanted to know about university life. They said, that's cool, you know, your university. And at the same time, two girls asked me a question. One said, what course are you doing? And the other one said, is it scary? Right? And I just thought, that's brilliant. Like that is a brilliant thing to see, because I got a question for the head and a question for the heart at the same time. So I said, okay, I'll answer the question for the head first. What course am I doing? Philosophy. One word. Question 2, is it scary? And she said, because sometimes I just think about going into a lecture hall and like, what happens if like, I think she said, or maybe I said, imagine falling over in front of like 100 people in a lecture hall and them all laughing at you. I mean, like walking into chapel is like intense. Never mind if you wear the wrong top and get like, go back to house, like screamed at like that. Do you know what I mean? Like it, so I get it. But yeah, is it scary going to university? I mean, I believe in shadows more than I believe in real things. And the shadow is so real with university, like the thought of going away from home and no one liking you and no one wanting to speak to you and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, terrifying. But when I got there, you know, I'd taken a gap year at this point. I've always been confident. I knew it wasn't going to be anywhere near as intimidating as a place to walk into as Wellington was. And I was pretty confident. And all I did was went around the corridors and I just said hi to people, and everyone was like more than friendly and like happy to talk to me. But the whole freshers thing, like it wasn't my scene anymore. Like I wasn't feeling it. I can differentiate now between real love and conditional love. And I knew that the day I stopped going out with those people or being entertaining or like, just sort of like being like a monkey, or do you know what I mean? Like someone to enjoy with. Like I knew that they wouldn't be there. It reminds me of a line from a good song which goes, "If I'm to fall, would you be there? Would you be there to applaud, or would you hide behind the moon?" It's like, I don't really want like to waste my energy on people who would just, if I fell over, would just like be embarrassed and walk away. I just want friends who are going to pick me up. And like, I was thinking of an example of, I told the girls one day, and it's actually in the yearbook, because it was iconic. I thought it was the cool, like the sexiest skirt from Zara. It was like tight, black, had like a little slit out the back. It was like Legally Blonde inspired or something like that. And I wore it to chapel one day, and I wore it without tights, and it had like, it was raunchy, but it was like, I was just trying out something new. And I remember literally like the looks that I got, and I don't even think anyone wanted to walk with me. Like, people were so embarrassed that I was just doing like something so statement-y. And I actually like scuttled back to the house after chapel and changed, because I couldn't hack it. Like, I couldn't even deal with it. And I'm just thinking about that now and thinking like, the people I want in my life are people who see me wearing anything and being like, you go girl, like rock it. Do you know what I mean? Not like, oh my God. Da, da, da. And I just like, that's what I want to encourage. So that's why I'm speaking out about it. So I saw that, and I actually felt quite lonely at uni, like in not very long at all, because loneliness isn't about who's around you. It's about feeling understood, I think. And I did not feel understood. I felt like I was the mother of the corridor straight away, but I just felt like I could help people with their problems, but no one had a clue what was going on for me. And I still feel like that quite a lot of the time, because having bipolar, like when I get high or either way, if it's no longer in the spectrum of what other people experience, like I can't even describe it with words. It's just like a really intense feeling where I get, so if we normally are in like the first dimension, it's like I get transported up to another dimension. It's kind of like just being on drugs suddenly, and that's a bit scary, to be honest. But this one helps a lot because she gets it. Or she doesn't pretend to, she just gives me cuddles, and that's what I really want, to be honest. So that's that. And then, okay, that's fear. Is it scary? So this is what I'm saying, it's about the shadows. Most people do find their crowd if you're meant to be there, and if you go and you find people that you can be yourself with, that's amazing. For me, I saw a lot, like I think that a lot of people aren't themselves at uni. I don't think they really, I don't see how you can know who you are at 18, never mind. I mean, I still don't have a clue. All I know is if I listen to my heart, then I'm doing what I think I want to be. And I just want people who support me, whatever, like however I show up, because my soul's been the same since I was born, you know? So it's just like basically soul bonds, I think, are a really good idea, because then it doesn't matter how often you see each other, it doesn't matter what you wear, it doesn't matter how you look, you just like love them. Soul bond. I'm not sure if you're seeing this, but this is a soul bond. Bond of the soul. Thank you, but that's okay. I don't need to be lit persistently. Thank you though. What else? Okay, so that was one conversation. Then another conversation was with, so there was 3 girls, like, I think they were like 3 all blonde white girls, I think, like literally just like 3 of me. And then there was 3 guys who had just joined in lower 6, and they'd all come from, I think, different parts, but they'd all come from like an Asian culture. And I was talking to them about this meandering path, and they were telling me that actually they are more than satisfied going to uni and getting a degree and getting a good job, because they know that if they go and get a job and work and give back to their family, like that's what their family want. And do you want to go down? And culturally, like, it just works for them. So she's gone. So they're fine with that, and they were kind of, it was good. Like, it was good to see that, you know, this isn't for everyone. I'm not suggesting that I'm not suggesting it's superior. I'm not suggesting that like all must abide, but it's just if there's a few people who are kind of like, the system isn't working for me, this is just maybe an alternative approach. well, definitely alternative, but maybe possible kind of thing. So yeah, but then I was saying to these girls that, you know, for you, I don't know if you would be satisfied with that, because I did what I was meant to do. I got good grades, I got into university, but I didn't feel like it was satisfying, and I didn't feel like my family were happy, to be honest. If I came home and still spoke my opinion or whatever, it would still upset people. So I couldn't truly be myself. Like, so yeah. I don't know. So I suppose what I'm saying there is that it's very interesting how much culture has to do with this, but I think that the audience I'm appealing to are people from a similar background and culture to me, which is one where we do actually want to be, we've got, like, it's an affair of the heart. Like, we want to do things that fuel and feed our soul, and we believe in an individualistic society, which means that we have got a true purpose. And I'm not sure if I said this last time, but I've got to say it now. When I asked my psychiatrist what it meant to be ill, she told me no longer able to perform your role. And to that, I've got to say, well, how on earth am I meant, how on earth is everyone else meant to tell me what my role is? Like, since I was 8, I you know, there's a video of me saying, I want to be a writer like my mum. And then I grew up and school started telling me, you know, get good grades, get to university, but like, my role is that I'm a writer. So, and I'm doing that now. So am I ill? Do you know what I mean? But in society standards, I'm not at university, so I am. So I'm just pointing out the subjectivity of it, and that who decides our role? Is it our parents? Is it our friends? Is it society? Or maybe there's something more. You know, maybe we all have got some sort of universal calling that comes to us naturally, or that is with us from when we're born. And if you look at pictures of you as a kid, what kind of things did you like doing then? Maybe that's more authentic. I don't know. But I'm just kind of suggesting it. I know I feel much happier this way. And now that the fear and the burden on me, which is kind of maybe the third conversation that I had, is where from here? Like, I still live in a world, in a society where money is incredibly important because it makes this world go round. And I do believe that there's a phenomenon called the Stockholm Syndrome, which is basically when you get captured. So it happened on a plane once, but when you get captured by terrorists or kidnappers or anyone, some people fall in love with the captives because they are, it's funny, captivated by them, because they're dependent on them. And so love kicks in. And we are all dependent on money. Like I said to a group of kids, imagine tomorrow morning you wake up, you can't use your phone, you can't call anyone, you have no access to money. Someone takes your Wellington clothes off you and just puts you in like homeless rags, and you have to go out into society, see how far you get. And then we wonder why we're anxious. We're so dependent. Like, we're so dependent. And more than that, I actually think that unconsciously, a lot of the time, parents want us to be dependent because maybe they don't believe in unconditional love, and they fear that if, instead of giving us fish, if they taught us to use the rod, / maybe they don't know how to use the rod. There's a lot of things here. So there's no fingers pointing. Like, responsibility is intangible apart from to the consumer. But let's just say that parents have a fear that if you learn how to use the rod yourself, you'll go away and never come back, right? They don't want to lose you. But the story that's as old as time, The Alchemist, the Odyssey are the two that stick to me. But I mean, Homer, like, is one of the greatest, well, I would say one of the greatest stars to have ever embodied human form, is what I would say. But they tell a story of journeying off, exploring the world, and then coming home. And I mean, how beautiful is that? You know, journeying off, exploring the world, seeing everything there is to see, and then coming home and bringing back a souvenir, because people, for some reason, we need souvenirs. So you bring something back from your adventures and you say, look, this is what I've got, this is what I've done. And one boy said to me yesterday, he said, but what about those who don't come home? And it's a really good question. Why do some people never come home? You know, why do they go off on this adventure and get lost? Well, the psychics say, not the psychics, the mystics say that the physical world is nothing but a manifestation of our psyche. So it reminds me of a story my friend Harry told me of a guy who leaves all his belongings behind, goes into the wilderness and ends up starving to death. And he basically dies in the same way. The video cut off, but the idea is that I see it as, instead of him starving to death, I see it as this is a complicated point to make, but it's like, as in, I'm kind of just wrapping my own head around it, but the idea is that he was already starved emotionally, and so he created that again in his physical world. An example I can think of where I've done that personally is going traveling and then leaving the person I was traveling with, like leaving her and not going back, because my whole life I've had like a fear of like abandonment, and so then I recreated it in my own world by abandoning someone. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I can see there where how unconscious behaviors like come back and repeat. But that is a point that needs a lot of work moving forward, but I'm just kind of planting the seed. And I can't even remember why I got onto that. Oh yeah, journeying home. Do we get home? And why some people never take the risk? Well, transformation mastery, this guy Julian, like, he talks a lot about the subconscious and how to get into it and how to get over it. I'm not saying I agree with everything that man says, and I actually have been thinking about his stuff quite a lot recently, because he's got this whole idea of gaming, and that's something that I at some point am going to question and not rebuttal, but I don't think all of what he says is wrong, but I think that he basically has this game, and the game is picking up women, and he teaches men how to build their ego, basically, so that they can get any girl. But it's a game of the head, and I'm playing a game of the heart. And, you know, it's funny, like, there's one video where his friend is, like, going through a heartbreak and is clearly so, like, distraught. And, like, it's so obvious to me that, like, he found someone he really loved, but he's, like, doing everything he can to get over it and stuff. And, like, that's not the game I'm playing. I'm playing the game of let's get back in touch with our hearts. So I'm playing let's get back to the root, like, the root. And a lot of the root is, like, your parents, because that's where, like, this all began in this life. And I think he's playing let's build the biggest possible ego and shelter around us so we never have to go back there. You know, fuck them, fuck the past. I'm saying I think that we're built and made of the past, so let's look at it, let's unscrabble the puzzle, figure it all out, and then we can move forward. So one thing he says is Julian, sorry, my brain's just gone funny. Julian, subconscious, transformation mastery. What on earth are we talking about? One sec, let me just try and remember. Okay, I'm gonna try and just say it a bit clearer, because I think I went a bit waffly there. Oh hello, there you are. Hello. So a lot of people never try because they're scared that if they do, they might die, right? I'm saying if you try and do what's scary and it fails, this is what Julian said. Okay, you don't have to take it to the point where you, like, die. But say you don't know whether to take a gap year or not, right? And you're scared that if you take one, you'll regret it and you'll waste a year of your life. First of all, we don't know how long we're going to live. So you can't waste a year of your life because, like, you don't know how long your piece of string is. But what you do know is that if you go straight to university, you never get that year. If you take the year and you waste it, you're bored. Even if you end up spending the whole year watching TV, you still go to university. and you forget about the year. So the idea is that always strive for plan A, because plan B will always be an option. It's the same, in my opinion, with like a relationship. If you're in a relationship and you feel like it's unhealthy, or you feel like you shouldn't be in that relationship at that moment in time, and you're scared of losing the relationship because you love the person, if you stay with them with that thought in your mind, then you will never know if it was the right thing to do. If you end the relationship with that thought in your mind, and you realize that you regretted it and you realize it was a mistake, if they really are the right person for you, I believe you will get back together. And if they weren't the right person for you, then thank God you ended it, you know? Thank God. And also, even if they were one of your soulmates, but because of the timing, it couldn't have been. It never could have been, because if you'd stayed with them, it would have got toxic, it would have got awful, and you would have just resented each other. And also, the other thing that's important is that it's like differentiating shadows from forms, because the reason why you love someone is something to do with their form. Like, it's something to do with how well you guys, like, you're on, you know, the idea you're on a level, like you vibrate at similar frequencies, so you get on well, right? But there's 7 billion people in the world, and you attract like energy that is like you. So if one person fits that, then it's likely other people will as well all come close. So you can't, like, the body that someone's in is a shell, right? And then the substance is inside, that's the soul. And that's what I think, when love is real, like, that's what you fall in love with. And it's not just going to be contained in one singular body in this world. And if it is, you'll find that body again, like, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so yeah, so that's what I said to those guys, and that was the idea of The Alchemist, and why I always would say, do that thing that scares you, do that thing that is a little bit riskier or whatever, because, I mean, Homer said it in the Odyssey, it's easier to voyage across the whole sea than to deal with yourself, than to deal with that void. But let's try, because we're, like, people watching this, like, are probably going to be approximately between, 14 and 30. Do it before you have kids, because why do you want to pass this on to them? If you've got stuff in your mind and you don't deal with it, your kids become your punching bags. But if you just do the scary stuff now, deal with it now, you can actually raise happy kids. Like, wouldn't that be wonderful? Not, like, perfect, because obviously, like, we're so far from that, but just a little bit better, just a little bit less anxiety, depression, all of this stuff. When it comes to the whole how are you going to make money question, like, I was talking to a guy who left a few years before me. He's working in Ocado in the factory thing, and he said anytime a business goes public, it loses all humanity and it is evil. And he said that as long as they pay me at the end of the day, I'm fine, right? Stockholm syndrome, that's literally what I was just saying. But does that mean it's right? And does that mean this is the way the world should keep going? And is this the way the world is going? I think so. So when I say I'm taking the meandering path, and I say that I am the most lucky person in the world to be able to be doing it this way, and writing and vlogging and stuff while I figure things out, I mean that. And I don't know how I'm gonna make money at this moment in time. I can think of a few ways as to how to start businesses and stuff, and I mean, all a business really is a group of people with an idea. I have ideas, but for now this feels like the right thing to be doing. And I'd say that it's really important. I think the last thing I'll say on the uni future video is that it's really, really important to differentiate between two things. One is doing something because it's what you want, and the other is convincing yourself you want to do something because you can't see another way. So as long as you stay honest about those two. I watched Sleeping Beauty last night, and he had a shield of virtue and a sword of truth. And I would like to have those weapons. As long as you keep your principles, you keep your virtue, and you use your mouth as a sword of truth, and you stay truthful, I think that this world would become a much brighter, more beautiful place quite quickly. So be the change you want to see. That's what I'm doing. I think that's it. It's been a long video. Peace out. Spud that. Come on, still.